Alright gang, welcome back. Garden update time. Been a while since I've done one of these, so I thought I'd show you how some of my ideas are working out here. Some successes, some failures. Isn't that the way it always goes? Alright, here we go. Middle of May, and just working this bed in. This is the one from my Hugel last year. I grew great peppers and tomatillos on this last year. And now it was grassed over, and so I'm digging some of the nice dirt out of the trench and topping her off. As you can see, the garden is really overgrown. Yesterday I got out my scythe and knocked most of it back, as you can see here. These beds, still working with my tilted beds here. Trying to get some more direct sun onto them to heat the soil earlier, as well as drain the any excess moisture off into these trenches, and keep the water under the beds where the plants can use them. It's been great. I'm really a fan of this method. I weed and I just throw I can throw the things right down there in the trench, the stuff I weed, and then you walk on it and it gets mulched, and then the following season I've just been able to dig it up and throw it back on top and get this really nice black dirt. So I haven't amended any of this with anything other than what's here. So lots of little baby onions from seed in there, some fennel from last year that volunteered, feverfew, and some miner's lettuce that seems to keep coming back, so I'm going to let it go. And down here, something I'm really excited about. This is another tilted bed, and this is a polyculture that I just broadcast seeded a few weeks ago, and I am thrilled with the success here. No work, no weeding. Look at all of these edibles. There's mustards, choy choy. There's some romaine lettuce there. Garlic, peas are coming up back there. As I start to eat these lettuces out of here and start to thin these, some of these are weeds, but then in here you'll see like a cabbage leaf. Well, you could see it if I was focused. Cabbage leaves. There's beets if you go digging down in here, which will also come up later. More mustards and lots of greens to eat, and they're just exploding, really. So that bed, I'm thrilled with the performance there. I decided this year I would do some polycultures and broadcast seeding and kind of wild and loose for some stuff, but for some other things that wasn't successful for me last year. You know, I mulched a lot, and I had a big problem with rodents from some of that mulching. And I also didn't have things in nice orderly rows that probably could have used it, things like carrots and onions. And so I wasn't able to weed them, and they just didn't perform that well. Carrots just got killed by those voles. Anyway, here's one that's kind of a combination, a little more traditional spacing, so I can hoe combined with a trench, which, you know, I really like these. Like I said, I can throw the weeds in here, but not only that, they just put me at this perfect height for work in the garden here. So big bunch of volunteer cabbages from letting some go to seed the last few years. I've been kind of transplanting those out. Those are those ones lying down there. I just transplanted those an hour or two ago, so hopefully those will stand up. And then as we get to the back of the garden here, you'll see from that video where I did my first sloped bed, we'll get to that one in a second, but here's a little extension of it with some hazelnut trees I planted last year. Those were the poles for my pole beans. I need to get in there and clean that out. There's some Egyptian walking onions coming up there. And here is the original sloped bed. And you can see it just looks like a terrible mess, which it is. But what I found is that a lot of these nettles and things like that will come up strong right now, and then they'll die back, and they'll leave the food coming through. There's really a ton of food in here. You can see these chive flowers in front of me. You'll have a hard time seeing a lot of this, but there's rosemary back in there. The bees are just loving all these wild mustard flowers. There's currants that are thriving. There's raspberries back there. There's a plum tree. And then the face of this, you know, I'm up to my chest in growth here. As I stand down in this original trench, you can see there's bees everywhere. There's all kinds of volunteers in here. Look at the size of that strawberry leaf. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a monster. There's strawberries and wild onions down in here. And as you press back here, you'll find that all these things have been seeding themselves. There's some horseradish just thriving. There's catnip. There's a giant dock. I mean, that is a monster. This is such a healthy bed. I believe that's anise, but I'm not sure. It does have a fennel flavor. This guy here, maybe someone can help me with that. Brussels sprouts going to seed. And again, back there, they're hard to see, but there's currants, raspberries, plum tree that I transplanted. You can see there some big garlics coming up and leeks. And then, yeah, so it's just booming. And I'm just kind of letting it go and be wild and harvesting food from it. Every now and then I'll come in here and I'll clear a swath and do some planting. So for the most part, my garden is really green. It's really wild. And it makes a whole lot of food without having to do too much. So I've been really pleased with that. So again, here's this polyculture bed from the back as I step down into the trench. I mean, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but there is so much food in here. And as I've been playing with these beds, I've been planting on that slope side to get the warmth. I've also been doing some minor earthworks back here and getting like little ledges to catch water and grow some onions and carrots and things like that. I see some parsley over there. So yeah, very pleased with that. And last but not least, here's my garlic. It is totally overgrown with this chickweed. And it seems to be thriving, so I'm going to let her rip and just see how it goes without weeding too much. If they come out small, I'll just have to save them and plant them again next year. There certainly is a lot of bulbs in there. So that's pretty much it. My tilted beds, here's the back side of these ones, again with onions put in the back side, and then the face, a real steep angle. I'm very pleased with that. Got a lot more digging to do, but that's okay. And then one last little treat is my little solar cart here. Got some old batteries that I had acquired through work and a little inverter, 12-volt washdown pump, stereo. There's a little charge controller. You can see I've got 4 Group 31 sitting here at 14 volts, all thanks to just this little 55-watt panel. That panel goes on top of here, and I can roll this cart around, listen to my music, and pump my water. So a little 12-volt pump, there's a gravity feed hose coming down from a spring up higher on the property, and using this pump, where I used to have a sprinkler pump and a big reservoir, I now have tons of water power, free water, free power, listen to the music, watering the whole garden. Really, really happy with that system, so I'm going to actually build a few more of those carts for other parts on the property, and have little 12-volt power points. So yeah, there's the garden. This one's going to be squash and stuff like that coming up soon, sticking with that same theory, digging the good soil out where I'm going to walk on it. No need to do that. Throw it up on top of the beds. I tend to just bury whatever's under there. That one has big logs under there, but then it was overgrown with grass, and I just flip all that grass and I bury it. And I know it's going to come back, but I'm able to keep it clear around the plants that need to be kept clear. So, all right, long overdue garden update. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.